Good afternoon, Nakama, and welcome to my channel. Chapter 1191 might bring a change of setting from Oda, just like he did in the Egghead arc. We could get a pause from the Elbaf arc to find out what happened in Mary Geoise, mainly because Oda still hasn't revealed why Mary Geoise was in flames, let alone why Dragon himself was one of those responsible for making the situation escalate so much that Imu had to call Shamrock back to restore order. A clear sign that the revolutionaries, as Lafitte himself had told Blackbeard, were about to act. In typical Oda fashion, he could shift away from Luffy's clash with Imu right after Scopper Gaban lost an arm, in order to explain to us what actually happened in Mary Geoise. We know that the only one who could have caused all this is Dragon. First, we have to rule out Blackbeard for a simple reason. When this attack began, Blackbeard was in a meeting at Hachinosu together with Karibu, listening to everything he had to tell them about the ancient weapons. Also worth remembering, the only one who was near Mary Geoise was Lafitte himself, who stayed in constant contact via Denden Mushi. But the ones who were actually there were the revolutionaries, who were blocking access so that supplies couldn't get through. On top of that, there's something very relevant to mention. Dragon himself had already made clear that he couldn't just stand by with his arms crossed. That's right. Dragon had already stated it was time to take action, and this happened in the final panel right after Vegapunk's message ended. Maybe because he knew that, with his current level, he could finally land a real blow. What may have set off Dragon's alarms was what happened in Lulusia, a liberated city, a city that imprisoned kings, a city that followed Dragon's revolutionary philosophy. After it was destroyed by the ancient weapon, and once that was confirmed through Vegapunk's message, Dragon decided to attack Mary Geoise directly. That scenario, the battle against Shamrock, the Admirals, and the Celestial Guards, could have unfolded quickly right after Vegapunk's message ended and Dragon moved to act. Those chapters, those scenes Oda hasn't shown us yet, might end up being highlighted in chapter 1191, just like he did with the Egghead arc when we finally saw Kuma's rescue right as Luffy was about to fight Kizaru. All of this points to signs that Oda could handle it the same way. The most interesting part of all this is that we might also finally learn about Dragon's Devil Fruit, which has been linked to the god of rain or the god of wind. Let's not forget that the Egghead anime opening confirmed Dragon saved Luffy with a bolt of lightning and that it was raining that day. A clear sign Dragon can control both thunder and rain at will. On top of that, Sengoku himself pointed out that Dragon always seemed to have favorable winds whenever escaping the Marines. And that's no coincidence, it's part of his devil fruit. That's why many fans link him to the fruit of the wind god, the fruit of Suza, the god of rain, wind, and storms. Just as Luffy inherited the fruit of the sun god and Loki inherited the fruit of the war god, Dragon may hold the fruit of the god of rain, wind, and storm, Suza, which would explain his rain, thunder, and wind abilities used to escape. This power would be shown to us in the battle that took place in Mary Geoise, and it would highlight exactly what Oda always used to say. When Dragon finally acts, he'll surprise everyone. Since Dragon's image isn't held in high regard by the fandom, with many joking that his ability is reading the newspaper, and his awakening is reading the newspaper, but bigger. That might be about to change once we get confirmation that the revolutionary was responsible for setting Mary Geoise ablaze, giving us a taste of the immense power held by the most dangerous criminal in history, as many have already pointed out. That's why chapter 1191 might also serve as a pause from Elbaf for a classic Oda-style scene change. What's also interesting about this attack on Mary Geoise is that we'll likely see exactly how Shamrock was involved. Did Shamrock fight the revolutionary? And more importantly, why did Dragon end up retreating? Did he lose the battle in Mary Geoise, or did he simply accomplish his goal? In this case, the goal was simply to leave Mary Geoise once he'd finished destroying the weapon that wiped out Lulusia. Dragon's objective is completely clear. He knew he couldn't beat Imu, and he couldn't win that battle either. Maybe he focused solely on destroying the ancient weapon so he could buy himself, and everyone else, some time. Just imagine, if Lulusia was destroyed in mere seconds, the next target could have been him, or his son Luffy, or anyone threatening the world government, especially with the rising tension across the seas. All of this may have forced Dragon's hand, and it could also explain how that development played out. If Oda ends up telling that story, he could easily dedicate 1 to 3 chapters to it. A small side arc showing exactly how Mary Geoise ended up in flames, and above all, revealing the true strength of the revolutionaries and whether they actually managed to damage the Uranus weapon, which is one of the most important elements at this point in the story. Fun fact, many point out that Dragon could also be coming to help Luffy, but that's unlikely. Remember, if Dragon attacked Mary Geoise a good while ago while Luffy was fighting Imu, he wouldn't have the ability to reach Elbaf that fast. Even with favorable winds, there's a huge distance between Elbaf and Mary Geoise, so the timing just wouldn't work out. On top of that, many of his soldiers were likely wounded during the fight. Remember, aside from the admirals and the Celestial Guards, there may have also been other Knights of God involved, including the Supreme Commander Shamrock, which tells you this wasn't an easy battle. It was a battle with a single goal, buying time by crippling the Uranus weapon. For a lot of fans, this is what really stands out, and it's already being talked about heavily on social media, that Dragon is going to show us what happened in Mary Geoise, and that this could be the final puzzle piece needed to understand Imu's decision, since Imu is also heading to Elbaf as a direct consequence of what happened in Mary Geoise, arguing that the gears started shifting the moment it was revealed that Luffy is what he considers to be Joy Boy. But honestly, Nakama, I wouldn't mind at all seeing a change of setting to find out exactly what happened in the Holy Land, to see whether any world nobles were actually kidnapped or had their homes burned. I'd genuinely love to know what happened there, and finally see the true power Dragon still hasn't shown us, tied to the god of rain, storm, and wind, to witness the true potential of the worst criminal in history. There's a reason he holds that title. It's time to see it reflected in raw power. As always, thank you all for the support. God bless you, Nakama, and I'm sending you all a big hug. Take care, Nakama.